Setting up Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi is much easier than it looks. In fact, the hardest step is ordering the right parts. Starting with the obvious, you'll need a Raspberry Pi. I'm using the 4th Gen Pi with 4GB of RAM. The 3rd Gen Pi is a bit underpowered and the 5th generation is still not fully supported, so just go with the Pi 4. Next, you'll need a case for your Pi. I'm using the official case, but there are plenty of third-party options, so just take your pick. You'll also need a power supply for it, as this doesn't usually come included. You can buy a third-party power supply, but I would recommend the official one in this case. Next, for storage, you want either a micro SD card or an SSD. I will be using a 32GB micro SD card because it's the more beginner and budget-friendly option. However, Home Assistant is quite aggressive on micro SD cards and they tend to break within a year or two. So I'd encourage you to upgrade to an SSD when that happens. Otherwise, micro SD cards are perfectly fine if you're just getting your feet wet with Home Assistant. Now, you'll need to slot this card into your computer or laptop during the setup process. So if you don't have a built-in card reader, then you need to add this to your shopping list as well. Next, you'll need an Ethernet cable to connect your Raspberry Pi to your Wi-Fi router. This is required for the initial setup, but it's worth keeping it wired into your router for reliability. And finally, the Pi only has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth radios built in, so if you want to use Zigbee, Z-Wave or Thread-based smart home devices, you will need to buy dongles that add those radios. I recommend adding a Zigbee dongle to start out, and you can watch my video on smart home protocols to find out why that is. I'll be using a Sonoff dongle for this, but a Conbi 2 or a SkyConnect dongle will also work. To clarify, this is entirely optional and something you can add later if you prefer. One more thing, if you are adding a dongle like I am, make sure to grab a USB Type A extension as well, as plugging it directly into the Pi without this cable will cause some interference. In case you're wondering, you don't need any HDMI cables or external monitors because we will be accessing the Pi remotely. All of this should total around $150 or 120 British pounds plus shipping, and links will be in the description for everything I've mentioned. Once you have all the parts, push everything to one side and let's start the build. Step 1 is to install Home Assistant on the micro SD card, and we're going to use the official Raspberry Pi installer to do this. Insert the micro SD card into your card reader. Go to raspberrypi.com/software, download and open the Raspberry Pi imager. Choose your Raspberry Pi version. For me, that's the Pi 4. Choose operating system, other, specific purpose OS, Home Assistant and Home Automation, Home Assistant. Again, make sure you choose the correct Pi version. Choose storage, select your micro SD card, and be aware this will override everything on the selected storage, so just double check it's right before going any further. Click next and wait for it to install Home Assistant. Once that's done, remove your micro SD card from your computer or laptop. Step 2 is to fully assemble your Raspberry Pi. Carefully place your Pi inside your case and close it up. Slot in the micro SD card. Plug in your Ethernet cable and the other end into your Wi-Fi router. If you're using a Zigbee dongle, first plug in your USB extension cable and then plug your dongle into the extension. Finally, plug in your power supply and it will boot up automatically. Step 3 is to load up Home Assistant, and this is where you access your Pi remotely. So on your computer or laptop, open up a new tab and go to homeassistant.local:8123. At this point, you should see a welcome screen, and when you first load it up, it will take about 20 minutes to configure itself. Once it's ready, you'll be asked to create an account and make a note of these details because you cannot recover them later. Put in your location so Home Assistant can apply the relevant settings, and this can also be used in location-based automations later on. Choose if you want to share any of your information. At this point, it will try to find and pair any Wi-Fi devices in your home, and it will ask you to assign those to different areas or rooms in your house. After that, you'll be in the Home Assistant dashboard. Step 4 is to pair your Zigbee devices, assuming you're using a dongle like I am. If you're not, you can just skip this step. Go to Settings, then Devices and Services. You should see your Zigbee dongle listed here in the discovered section. If you don't, make sure the dongle is plugged in correctly, then restart your Home Assistant. Go to Configure, then Submit, and once it's done, click Finish. Now click the Add Integration button, then choose Add Zigbee Device. This will start scanning for any Zigbee devices that are currently in pairing mode, so grab your devices and put them into pairing mode. You should slowly start to see them populate here, where you can give each device a name and assign it to an area of your house. You can also come back here at any time to add more Zigbee devices if you need to. Now click the back button and choose Devices. Here you can see everything currently paired to Home Assistant, and you can click into individual devices to see more information about them, including battery life and current state. Step 5 is to start using Home Assistant because the main installation is now complete. You'll see all your paired devices under the Overview tab, and you should be able to control them entirely from this screen. Now there's obviously a lot more you can do here, including setting up automations and customizing your dashboard, but I'll save all that for another video because there are 2 more optional steps I need to cover. Step 6 is to consider enabling Home Assistant Cloud. This allows you to remotely control your devices away from home and enable Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant to control devices with your voice. However, this is a paid add-on, and after a 30-day trial, you'll have to pay either $6.50 per month or $65 for the year. You can get these features without paying a subscription, but the workarounds aren't nearly as straightforward or as reliable, and I'll save that topic for another video as well. If you plan to use HomeKit with Home Assistant, then you don't actually need this add-on because there's a free HomeKit integration you can use that will basically give you these features. And of course, if you don't care about remote access or third-party voice control, then you can ignore this part entirely. The last step is to enable automatic backups, and while this is entirely optional, I strongly recommend you take a few minutes to set this up. Trust me when I say future you will be very grateful that you did, especially when your SD card decides to call it quits. Home Assistant has an excellent backup and restore feature, so if you ever lose everything, you can quickly restore a recent backup. Now, there are a few ways to do this, but I recommend the Google Drive add-on. This will take frequent backups and it will store them both locally and off system in your Google Drive account. To install this, go to Settings, Add-ons, click Add-on Store in the bottom corner. Then in the top corner, click the 3 dots and choose Repositories. Paste in the link I'll provide in the video description, click Add, close the window and refresh the page. You should now see the Google Drive Backup add-on, which you can go ahead and install. Turn all of these options on, start the add-on, then click Open Web UI. Go through the steps to link your Google Drive account, and once that's done, you can click Settings to adjust how often backups are taken and how many backups are stored at any one time. So that's it, you're all set. You can jump into Home Assistant and see just how deep the rabbit hole goes. But I have a lot more Home Assistant content planned, so subscribe for that and I will see you in the next one.